Our next speaker has mastered his craft through versatile of genre. Through his work as a director of theater, advertisement, music videos, documentaries, and now recently a founder of a computer game company, here is our next speaker, Baldwin Albertson. Welcome.
Hi. Right. I've been on this kind of journey ever since I was a kid. I was born in 1983, not far from actually where we are right now. And I was always fascinated by stories. But my initial fascination was not the, well, it kind of was, but my first love of stories was history. And when I was a kid, I got obsessed with Romans, and I got obsessed with Neolithic cavemen. I learned all about their drawings. I made my own cave paintings in my room. And with the Romans, like Roman soldiers, I really liked. Then I learned about, obviously, stories and narrative. And I really liked Asterix and Obelix. And I liked the Roman soldiers because they were so technical for their age. And I'm not sure, I mean, I'm 38 years old, but I remember when I was a kid, my father had a printer, and all the pieces of paper, they were all like connected. Do you remember these kind of old school printing paper? So I took one of his boxes, because my father he's a writer, and he teaches political science. And I took his box and I drew, I think 1,200 Roman legionaries in one line. So it would be like from over there to here, just on this, because the papers are interlinked. So I was continuously fascinated. And that was my first medium. I enjoyed drawing. I would draw and draw and draw. But I was, as a kid, very kind of peculiar, kind of obsessive about things. So when I was supposed to start learning to read, I wasn't very much paying attention, as I was kind of busy drawing. But then one day, I found this comic book, and I was like, that's interesting. There's a story to it. And I said, I want to write a story. And then my mother told me, well, then you have to learn to read, obviously, and then write. So I got really quickly over that obstacle, and I started writing my own stuff. And I was writing. I did my first comic when I was 6, and I just kept collecting comics and books and drawings and stuff. And it was going really well until that thing hit me called puberty, when my interests went into another direction for a few years, especially women, so I kind of took a bit different direction. I went into music. I was like my new way to express myself, and I was in music for a few years. There was always something I was thinking, like I always missed this bit of, like there's something missing, because music was great, and being in a band is a great experience. A lot of stuff I've done today I base on being in a band. I learned a lot. It's like being in a marriage with 3 people. But there was always something missing. And what I really missed about was basically this idea of being a child. And as you get older, and you get debit cards and credit cards, and you go to school, and you get student loans, and you get married and have kids, it's always kind of difficult to being that kid when you have to be an adult as well. So it's like, I was thinking like, so I'm going to do all this creative stuff, I'm going to do all this work, but I have to be an adult. I mean, I hate being an adult. I took my driver's license when I was 29. So I was like, how do I do that? And I was always thinking like, there is a secret to this whole thing. There's like a hidden code somewhere. There's this really deep code I need to break. Then I can be a successful creative and still kind of almost behave like an adult. But I wasn't sure where it lay. So one day I was really thinking about my life, so I decided to become a director. I thought, that kind of sums up everything I want to do. It's storytelling, it's visual, it's this, and blah, blah, blah. So I went and started directing in England, then came back home, very adult with my wife, and We had a kid on the way, so it was full-on adult. So I was always thinking like, and how can I become a child again? Like, how will I do it? And it's like, and I was living in Gravarvogur. I had a fucking driver's license, and I was doing all these adult stuff. So I started working full-time as a director. My background is theater. I learned theatrical directing and acting. But I somehow ended up in commercials, which I thought was interesting, because commercials has this one thing I thought was part of the code, is that when you do a commercial, it's different when you do a short film or a film project, whatever kind of creative project, because in the end, somebody's paying you to do something, so you have to deliver something. It's a little bit of a different approach. And I did loads of commercials. I did lots of, then I started doing music videos and doing all kinds of productions and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but what is that code? And like, how can I break it to become this like inspired, creative person that still has responsibilities? And I think one of it is to continue going, is to kind of learn how to see opportunities. I had a lot of opportunities, and I thought like to myself, I'll just grab any opportunity I get in the business. I would do all kinds of funny commercials. I would do all kinds of different projects. And one of them was, there was this band, music band that contacted me. The owner of the company used to work with us. His brother was in the band. And they were like, would you like to do their music video? And I was a bit like, they're not like, when you do music videos, obviously you would like to have high-profile artists because it's always a lot of work and sounding very shallow, but it is. And these guys were like, I met them, they were really cool, and they said like, well, we have an idea. We wanted to be about this guy who works in a video rental store. He's this loner kind of a guy, and suddenly he goes to Mars. And I was like, wow, that sounds a bit like my life. So I said, all right, I'll do it. And we started production. Then the video thing didn't work out. So instead, we shot it all here inside the library. And that was like a completely, when I thought about it afterwards, it's like everything went according to exactly how I wanted everything to go. And I was like thinking later on, why did it just happen that way? And I realized I was actually taking a lot out of my own life into it as a creative. So it wasn't exactly just me doing tailored work as a director. I was actually putting something of mine into it. In one of the scenes here, you can see there's a 2001 book by Arthur C. Clarke that falls out of a shelf and lands on the floor, and the main character picks it up. And I was like, wow, that's my book. So I realized I actually put a lot of my own life into it. So I was thinking like, that's me, I'm breaking the code. It's like, I'm getting somewhere, like, this is it. And I kept on going, doing productions, but I always wanted to do another thing, was also do video games. So it's very complicated trying to be a kid that is an adult, doing all this directing work, then still wants to become a tech entrepreneur as well. So it's all kind of a bit messy right now. So I was always thinking like, well, before I become a tech entrepreneur, I need to start at the source. And my first aspiration as a kid, the first reason why I wanted to learn to read and write was to become a writer. So I was like, that's it. I'll go back to base one. I'll start on square one. I'll write a book. Do you know what I did? I read a book about how to write a book. It's called Synopsis. And it's very similar to scripts, but it's like, yeah, one whole page synopsis, you do all this stuff. It's really cool. That's like the fascinating bit of writing a book, is doing that kind of work. The difficult thing is writing the whole bit. That's kind of the tricky thing. So as I was learning to write a book, before I would do all the other tough stuff, I was thinking like, speaking of the code, all these successful actors, we have J.K. Rowling, we have this, we have that, we have Kurt Vonnegut, we have J.R.R. Tolkien. They must all have known the code. Sounds logical, right? Yeah. So I thought, I will learn about them and figure out what their routine was. How did they do it? And the more I researched other authors and more I tried to find about them, I realized I was just spending time on not writing. I was just trying to, research something. I wasn't doing anything proactive. So basically, when it all kind of hit me, was when I was reading an interview with Kurt Vonnegut, a famous American author. He wrote famously Slaughterhouse-Five. And it kind of nailed to me what he said on writing. It's like that. This is the only tidbit I found. And I realized that the power I was looking for, this secret trick of becoming kind of a super creative that could still have the mindset of a child but still behave like an adult, this like superpower I found in Kurt Vonnegut. And one of his teachers was called Paul Engel. They taught like a creative workshop, I think in somewhere around Illinois in the 50s. And his teacher told Kurt Vonnegut that his dream was that one day their workshop would be so successful they would have their own building, like a temple to writing with like something like from the Acropolis, something really impressive. And above the entrance there would be an inscription in Latin. And I'm going to read for you what it would say. I'm going to try and do it in a very cool way. It would say, non tam gravissimi. Do you know what that means? That's the secret. And the secret to all creative work is don't take it so seriously. And that's what I learned. As soon as I figured it out, it stopped being a chore and it kind of really went into it really reminded me on the path I was on. So suddenly I was on the way to starting my own computer game company. That was like the next logical thing. I'm still writing, by the way. And it's like I finally broke the code. And the code is to use your own life, draw from your own inspiration. The other one is don't take it seriously. We're not doctors. Like, basically, the world could probably survive for a little bit without us, really, like, in the end. Like, somebody dies on a plane, they don't call for a rider. They call for probably anyone else before that. And so I just started thinking, like, if I ever have my own talk, it would be called, and that's like the most shocking thing, like, if this would become like a big seminar, I would travel the world and do conference halls. I would call it the Power of Cliche. Because the cliches are the most annoying thing in the world, because in general they are right. That's what I used to find so frustrating, but in the end it's true. It's like my favorite cliche, which really applies to my life and this search of the code, is like, it's not about the journey, it's about the destination. I actually enjoy more cooking than eating. I enjoy more writing it than reading. I enjoy more the shooting and the editing than watching it with an audience. So that's kind of my contribution as an artist and a director, because for me, no matter what medium I'm working in, even in computer games, it's just another medium to tell stories. And that's what I set out when I was a kid. That's why I learned writing and reading, and that's how I somehow ended up in front of you all lovely people today with my notes I just wrote earlier. So to sum it up, also, I think with like all the obstacles, there are loads of obstacles on the way, and one of them is just to try to decide on the obstacles you want to face. And like for me, I was always trying to do everything. I was producing, I was directing, I was writing, I was selling the ideas, I was doing this, I was doing the edit, and I was just completely stretching all my talent. So now today, I'm 38, I know what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are. So I focus on what I'm good at. If somebody asks me to do something I'm not very good at, I just say very politely, no thank you, I'm not that interested really. Without sounding like a complete dick, but that's kind of what I've learned really. And in the end, like all these jobs, no matter, for me, it's like, no matter I'm doing a 30-second commercial or a documentary, or if I'm doing my computer game, for me, it's in the end what a director does, and this also applies to other parts of the industry, is that we design what the audience should think. As simple as that. For the audience, I design what they should think. On the set, the other job is just to get the best out of everyone, really, as a director. That's kind of my experience for the last 10 odd years. And when I apply all this to my computer game, and I'm doing management games. Does anyone know what a management game is? No. Management game is about managing stuff. You could, like The Sims. Does anyone know The Sims? That's a management game. And in my management game, you manage the First World War, the trenches of the First World War. But there's a story to be told, because all the decisions you make on the front lines will have effect on the home front. So that's why I always try to find ways to tell stories. And I don't have time today to tell you all about the game, but it's called Vitar Games. You can all find it online, and we're currently financing. But that's like, still, it's all a medium, it's all the same stuff. And yeah, I'm a funnel, and I just make sure that the flow of information goes to the audience in the correct manner, in the correct way, so nobody gets confused and everyone understands the story. So the more simpler, the better. So that takes me back to being that child in 1983. And that's where I hope to be here in the near future. So thank you.